Ahoy, my friends, Ryder here, and welcome back to another Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis video. Today will be my to pull or not to pull video for Cloud's new limited Final Fantasy VI crossover weapon. So that being said, I'm just going to get straight into it. We're going to jump over here. I'm going to talk a little bit about this banner. So when this banner first dropped, I was super excited. I think that this is super interesting. This weapon, you know, kind of brings something to the game that we haven't seen before. But after taking a little bit of thought about this weapon, I think that there are definitely some great strengths about this banner, but there are definitely some apparent weaknesses about the banner as well, right? So one thing that I will say is if we take a look at the costume here, guys, right? This costume is great, especially this first R ability is absolutely fantastic. This might come in handy if you just need Cloud to be tankier in a certain situation, but this costume does not even come close to the Bahamut Anniversary costume in my opinion, and it seems to me that it would be pretty rare that we would be using this over other ones in the game. Now, if you're a newer player to the game, if you don't have the Bahamut costume, if you don't have, you know, any of his other Arcanums, it's definitely going to be a good costume to have, especially because of this first R ability. But it seems to me that this costume is more for aesthetic purposes for most players in this game, and this banner is all about the weapon. Now, the weapon itself is super interesting. Before I get into it, I want to go back. I'm going to take a look at the animation right here, since that's my favorite thing to do, and I actually really like this animation. I think it looks pretty sick. The huge swinging uppercut right there is super cool, and if we actually try on the costume, I like Locke a lot from Final Fantasy VI, so I think this costume is kind of badass. It reminds me of like Zack's kind of hound costume from Halloween. And it just looks cool. I think it's a cool looking costume. It just looks pretty, you know, I like the dagger right there. I think it's a little weird that it's kind of like crossing over the middle of his body instead of like the outside of his body. That just seems like kind of, I don't know, like it would be uncomfortable if you were like going into battle and that's how your dagger was kind of laying across you. But other than that, I mean, it looks cool. The sword itself is not his coolest sword, but it does look cool. I like his jacket. I like his little kind of scarf hanging from his waist right here. The kind of light gray white boots, and he's got his little headband right there. You know, Cloud pulls it off. Cloud pulls it off. It looks cool. It might not be pulled off by everyone, but Cloud definitely pulls it off. So other than that, guys, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to talk a little bit about this weapon, right? Now, this weapon right now in the game basically is going to allow Cloud to bring back a lot of his previous weapons that have kind of been power crept over the months, right? So we have Sky Splitter, his physical fire weapon. We have Murasame, his physical lightning weapon. And then we have Streaming Saber, which is, you know, I wouldn't really say that one's really power crept. That one's definitely the strongest of the three. And essentially just equipping this weapon can make all three of those weapons much better than what they are, especially if you have those Arcanums. Now the drawback to this is that he has to do his own buffing. With most DPS in the game, you don't want them to be doing their own buffing, and especially on top of that, if we look at this weapon at OB6, it never actually hits high on the first cast, meaning you would have to double cast this in order to hit high, which you would never really do realistically. So that kind of throws a wrench in the plans of everything here, you know, because at that point in time, why even take it to OB6 if it already hits mid at base 5-star? So this is one of those weapons where I think just having a single copy will be good, but I will say that in my opinion, a weapon like this is going to be great in this time frame, but I would say that we're not far from next gen elemental weapons and costumes, and I think that the next generation elemental weapons are all going to increase their elemental potency in the main hand on the main damaging weapon, and I'm guessing that Cloud will probably be getting some of these next gen elemental weapons sometime in the next 2 to 4 to 6 months, right? So once that happens, this weapon is going to become less and less relevant in the game, you know, once you get the fire one, the ice one, the lightning one, etc. And so that to me kind of makes everything all the more tricky. Now, I really love Cloud. He's my favorite character. He's one of my favorite characters in the game. So I'm going to go through this and just kind of just break apart this entire weapon right here. And then we're going to kind of just talk about it and see how we feel at the end. So at base 5-star, Locke's sword has 285 physical attack, so pretty good. It does 630% physical non-elemental damage with a 10% crit rate, and then also boosts fire, ice, and lightning potency up to mid, all in one cast, and it lasts 30-second duration, which is pretty good because one of my worries was having buff debuff extension on a DPS in order to keep this up so that he doesn't have to constantly do it all the time, right? Which can be a pain. It's just not really viable, efficient, etc. for a main damaging character. Now, if we look at the R abilities, we have boost attack at 30, base 5-star, and boost ability potency at 16. You put this in the offhand, you're going to get 15 over 8, which isn't bad for sure. And then we have the support abilities right here, which is attack boost fire, attack boost ice, attack boost lightning. Now, basically, Cloud would be using this in conjunction with another stronger elemental weapon, so I don't really see the value of putting these ATB boosts in the support materia. If you guys see it in a different way, I'm happy to hear your guys' perspective. But like, for example, if I'm pairing this weapon with Sky Splitter, right, what is the point of having attack boost fire right there? Now, if you needed to be able to do fire and ice damage in one battle, like against Kefka right now, then yeah, this is going to be helpful, but it's going to be helpful in one single situation, and then it's not going to be helpful at all. So to be honest, I feel like this is interesting to have, but not really as good as it looks on the surface. The R abilities, boost attack and ability potency, are definitely good ones, especially because it's getting easier and easier and easier to max out physical attack, physical command stance, ability potency, etc. So it's nice to have the other damaging R abilities in there for sure, right? Now, the tricky thing about this weapon is you take this to OB6, 627 physical attack, deals 880% physical non-elemental damage, which is great, but let's be real, when we're in an elemental fight, the physical non-elemental damage is really not that overbearing. We're really just relying on elemental damage. So it is nice to have that extra 880%, but you're not really doing this all the time. You're just trying to get that buff up on Cloud. Now we have the fire, ice, and lightning potency, but it is still mid to high, and even at OB10, guys, you can see it's still mid to high. Like I was saying earlier, you're never really going to double cast this weapon. It's not like I'm going to go into a fight, I'm going to cast this weapon twice. So my guess is that other characters are going to come out. Aerith is going to come out with some kind of weapon where she can give, you know, AoE fire damage to the team. That goes up to mid, and then this weapon will take it to high. Or ice damage goes to mid AoE, and then this weapon will take it to high. Or you use like the Crimson Flare, etc., the summon in order to raise your fire damage, and then you pop this on top, and that will also hit high. But this is relying on a lot of other factors, so realistically, whenever we use this weapon, no matter if you get it to base 5-star OB6 or OB10, you're essentially just casting it for that mid-tier buff, and then you're just going back to the regular DPS right there. It is nice that the duration right here is 45 seconds. That's definitely pretty solid. This could have been half this, right? I wouldn't have been surprised if this was 22 seconds, but it's important that the duration is high because you're probably not stacking buff debuff duration on Cloud. You might be able to in certain builds, but most of the time we're not really focused on that on our DPS. And so as interesting as this weapon is, it does have a couple glaring setbacks, which is kind of a bummer. I was really hoping that this weapon would go basically high on the first cast at OB6, but it does not look like that is going to be the case. And so essentially my opinion on this weapon is that, you know, I was super stoked to pull on this today. As soon as I saw the data mine, I was super amped on it, and now I'm kind of second guessing it because I'm like, do I really want to take this weapon to OB6, you know, essentially just for 10 extra attack, which would be 5 extra attack in the offhand. But then I guess you would get 20 extra boost ability potency, so that would be, what is that, 18? So you would hit level 3 right here in the offhand on boost ability potency. So that's definitely good, but I honestly, you know, I think that This weapon at OB10 is definitely very good, but this is super whale territory in my opinion. To be honest, this entire Final Fantasy VI crossover, everything has felt a little bit slapstick, like kind of put together maybe a bit too fast, kind of pushed out a bit too fast. It doesn't really feel like they took too much time to really come up with this, and I feel like it is kind of showing, which is a little bit of a bummer. All of these have kind of come out of left field, and it's just interesting to see, you know, what is kind of happening in this crossover right here. So now at this point in time, I'm like kind of tossed up in the air as to whether or not I'm going to pull on this weapon. I think I'm for sure going to pull on this weapon to get a single copy of it, but as to whether or not I will continue to build that weapon to OB6 is yet to be known. So I think that in my opinion, guys, this banner is an easy skip, to be honest, for probably most people. If you get a single copy of the weapon, it's definitely going to help you in certain content, especially the new Ifrit EX fight. It's definitely a good sword, but I'm telling you guys, the moment they release the next gen elemental weapons, which in my opinion are not far off, they're closer than they are further, they're just going to add these elemental potencies, which we've already seen in other kinds of weapons, right? They're just going to add this to the main weapon, and then this weapon is going to slowly fall away. So most of the times I like to pulse for something that's going to have long-term efficacy and viability, and I just don't see this weapon really lasting longer than 6 months. Now, in the interim, it's definitely going to be fun to have it. It's going to be fun to use it. It's definitely going to help you in certain things. But other than that, it's hard to say, you know, how viable this weapon will really be in the future here, guys. So for me, I think that my final take on this weapon is that it's definitely interesting. It's definitely good. If you guys have Sky Splitter, Murasame, and Streaming Saber, and you have those Arcanums, this is definitely going to allow Cloud to bring those weapons back and do a lot of damage in good boss fights, in a lot of content in the game for sure, even if you just have a single copy of this weapon. If you have the OB6 copy of this weapon, I really don't see the mid to high being a huge factor, to be honest. But I could be wrong. And I'm curious to hear, you know, I know that a lot of you guys will, if you think that I am wrong, you'll definitely let me know, and I'm curious to hash it out with you guys and talk about it. But that is going to be my take. I was going to do a pull for this weapon. I think I will still do a pull for this weapon right now. So let's just see. I have, you know, some extra crystals right here. I've been looking forward to pulling on this crossover because I really would like to get Aerith's Princess Guard. But every single banner that's coming out, we had the Sephiroth banner, you know, the Edgar's attire, but to be honest, there's really nothing about that weapon that really screams limited. This one, I can see it being limited, same with Terra's, which is also a great weapon, but yeah, it's just very kind of strange how they have kind of done it here. They've kind of locked it down. They've limited the use of the weapon in a way that, you know, they've added this viability to it, but in a way that's really never going to be utilized in my opinion. And so it's just kind of, you know, I was excited, but then at the same time I'm like, well, do I really want to go for it now at this point in time? So yeah, but I am going to do one pull right here in the video for you guys. Hopefully we'll get a single copy of it. All right, of course we're going to start with the yellow one. Hey, I'll take the 3 though for sure. All right, there we go. Okay, cool. So hopefully we get a good pull right here. Let's see what it looks like. All right, let's just hope right here we get something good. 10 5 stars. Let's go. I'm gonna let Cloud run this out. All right, let's freaking go. All right, Cloud, you need to go get your new sword, bro. All right, let's go. Let's go, Cloud. Come on. Oh, gosh. Not fun. All right, so let's see. You can still get it. Nope. Nada right there. Nada right there, guys. All right, so I'm just going to skip through that. I think that I'll pull to the first let's see right here. I'm going to pull actually to the first 6 stamps and just get a single copy of the weapon, and then who knows, I might come back and do some more pulls. I'm undecided as of now. I think for most people it's probably not worth it to go past base 5-star, but I really like Cloud. I would like to utilize him, so we'll just have to see where it goes from there. The one drawback of having weapons only at base 5-star is that the R abilities just can't really stack up in the harder fights. That's the biggest problem. So we'll just have to see where it is. Alright, so there we go. Cloud's walking out with the Murasame in the costume. Let's frickin' go. We got a guaranteed 5-star right here. Let's frickin' go. I'm just going to skip through this. We already know we got a gold. Wow. Alright. Let's frickin' go. Red 13, Kate Sith. Alright, I did add Red 13's new weapon here. Alright, and there it is. Got a single copy of it. Super down for that. That opens up a little bit more in his kit for me, so I'm super excited on that. Here's a second one right here. What is this? Oh, Ivy Collar. Alright. And here we have Kate Sith. I did add his weapon as well. That was in the Halloween banner. So got some new stuff here. That's always good to see. Alright, perfect. But nothing for Cloud, unfortunately, guys. That's unfortunate. But we did get one of those and one of those, so I'm happy to see that. Alright, and I'm going to do one more pull here. Alright, to get that single copy of the weapon. Alright, there we go. And, man, I would really like to get that costume just for the look of it. We're not that far away. I think I'll come back and maybe in a different video and pull for the costume after considering if I want to go past OB or base 5-star for the weapon. Alright, here we go. I'm going to have him look up. We're just going to skip through that. Alright, there we go. Come on, come on, come on. And there's that guaranteed copy right there. Boom. And there is my first copy of the Lox Blade. Honestly, I was so excited, and it's such a bummer that I feel like it's going to lose its viability so soon in the game. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I really need to sit down and really consider if I want to take it past this single copy right here. But for me, that's going to basically conclude these pulls at the end of this video. I hope that this video kind of, you know, helps you guys come to terms with whether or not you want to pull for this. My guess is that Tifa is definitely going to be the best weapon on this crossover at this point in time. So we'll just have to wait and see what she looks like 1 week from today. So that being said, if you guys enjoyed this video today, please don't forget to drop a like, subscribe to the channel for more Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis content. I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.